It is time for our November reading wrap up, and before I dive into all this, I just want to say that if you hear weird noises, it is very likely my new dog! Yay! So excited, and I'll totally make a video to introduce you to him soon, unless, oh, there he is. Say hi. That's a preview, I guess. But he is playing with a toy, and it does sound absolutely disgusting, so I'm not sure how much you'll be able to hear with a microphone, but I hope you'll just bear with me. This is just one of the joys of being a new dog owner. Getting into the wrap-up, though, I read the least I have read this entire year in the month of November, and most of that was due to the fact that I was single-mindedly going after getting a dog, and I'll tell you more about that soon, but I just really didn't read very much, and I'm okay with that. That's why it's good to be ahead of schedule with things, isn't it? Yes, so I'm very grateful for the extra books I read over the months for the rest of the year. In November, I read a total of 6 books for a total of 1,697 pages. Usually I read like almost double that number of pages, but what are you gonna do? So this wrap up will probably be shorter than usual. Now, if you're new here and you don't know how this works, how I do my wrap ups is I split it into 3 categories. I have the best of the best, books I thought were fantastic and totally worth your time and your money. Then I have borrow it books, books that I thought were good and enjoyable, but maybe not worth the coin. And then I have skip it books, books I thought that you should definitely not read and it's just, don't bother sort of thing. You can stay for as long or as little as your heart tells you to. Just watch the best of the best if you want, or stick around to the end so that you know which books that are maybe hyped, but not worth the hype, if you know what I'm saying. So let's get into this thing. By far my favorite book this month was actually a nonfiction that I read on audiobook. It was Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. This book was on the Goodreads Choice Awards for the year. I actually saw it recommended here on YouTube, which just goes to show that you do find great book recommendations on YouTube, and I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic book, and since I did listen to it on audio, I will now be looking for a physical copy because already there's stuff I wish I could flip through and reference to again and get ideas from. The book is about exactly what the title says, digital minimalism. It's about our modern reliance and, dare I say, obsession with our online presences, our social media, just our constant connectivity. I thought he did a great job evaluating this modern phenomena and like all the modern problems that have come with it over the past decade or so in an incredible way. He really goes at it from a bunch of angles. He talks about where it started, where we've ended up, and how so many changes have happened so fast with this incredible technology that we really never found a way to process it all, or like what's the healthiest way to go about it. And that's something I'm really, really interested in. It's why I do what we call like tech-free Thursdays. It's why my husband and I have conversations about like how we're using technology and how it affects us. And obviously I love it. I'm here talking to you and I think it's an incredible thing, and I'm no Luddite, but I do think it's an important topic and one that is just endlessly fascinating to me. So if you feel kind of overwhelmed sometimes, or you think that maybe you could use a little bit of an understanding of how these technologies work and how they can impact you and some other things you can do to bring the simplicity back into your life, then it's a great, great book. Highly recommend it. I gave it 5 stars, and I don't do that very often. Next on my buy it list is Life Undercover, Coming of Age in the CIA by Amaryllis Fox. And is that the coolest name you've ever heard, or what? It's hard to believe that this is nonfiction, but it is. This is about Amaryllis and how she really started her career in the CIA, and she talks a lot about what that was like, how she defended our country, lots of like different dynamics. It's truly, truly fascinating. I think this is what spy novels are trying to achieve when they write them in fiction, and it was just an incredible, incredible story, and she writes so well. Sometimes when you get these sort of memoirs from people who aren't necessarily like in a creative field or don't have like that background in like crafting a story, you can get kind of a mixed bag with memoirs. But this one is so fantastically written. There is a little dog nose sneaking in. He requests pets while I do this. I hope you don't mind. But she writes so beautifully, and there is a lot of like nerd references. Like, she's a nerd, she was raised in this really nice bookish household, and that was just fun in and of itself. So I hope you'll give this a shot if you're at all interested in that. I think it's a really great like crossover book because it is like espionage and spies and CIA and stuff, but it's all real. And I think her story is really compelling. It made me think about things like about our country and about how you and I are just sort of going about our day and all the things that go on beyond us that like keep so many people safe. Really an incredible thing, and it made me really grateful and just really thoughtful. So great book, great writing. I would love it if she wrote more like fiction. Try it, Amaryllis, if you happen to see this, because you got the gift, girl. The last on my buy it list is When Less Becomes More. Now, this is another nonfiction, and I didn't realize I read so many nonfiction again until I just talked to you about it. So I don't know what to tell you. I guess I'm just in a mood. But this one is about, like what it says, when less becomes more. It's about simple living, intentional living, something I'm really interested in and planning to share more with you guys in the next year. So I really just enjoy reading about these sort of things. This entire topic is really about finding fulfillment in a world that is focused on a lot of quick fixes or quick entertainment. It's about focusing on what really matters, more of what really matters, less is more, quality over quantity, all these sort of values that can get kind of overshadowed by the fun, fast modern world. I do want to say, in case you're curious about it, like she was a great writer. It was really enjoyable to listen to on audiobook. I liked it a lot. I will just say, just sort of as like a, I don't want to say disclaimer, but just so you know, she is a Christian and she does write from a Christian angle. Now, as you probably know, I'm not Christian, but it really doesn't bother me. It wasn't overdone in any way, but some people are more sensitive to that and they just prefer that, you know, religion be separate from things like this. But you have to appreciate that people write from their own experiences, and that is exactly what the author did. So it didn't bother me at all, but I just thought I would share that with you. And if you are a Christian, you're probably going to see a lot of values in it that do really appeal to you. So it might be a good, like, meditational book for you to read, whether or not you're Christian. So just an FYI, really liked it. Apparently she's a blogger and has had lots of books, and I just only found out about her from this one, but I'll definitely be reading more. That is it for the buy it books, just 3 that I really enjoyed this month. So let's move on to my borrow it book. My borrow it book is The Caged Queen. This is book 2 in a series. The first book was The Last, and I'm sorry, you probably saw it in my last wrap up if you watched it. In case you're not familiar, this series is a like YA fantasy with dragons and warrior princesses and all sorts of fun stuff. And I feel very similar to this book as I did on the last one, in that the premise is great, the writing style is compulsively readable, it's simple, a breeze to get through. You don't even really realize you're reading it. And there's something magical about that in itself. But my notes for this book continue to be the same as they were for the first. Sometimes the descriptions don't make sense. Baseline for the world could be so much better because the premise is amazing and you want all the detail. So while I did enjoy reading it and I had fun with it, I just wish it had been taken to the next level. So this is about a 3.5 star read for me. And I do think they're fun. And if you just want like a simple YA to read between harder reads, then this might be a fun one. Like, it's not too much pressure on it, you know? So I'm just marking it as a borrow it book, and I'm probably going to finish the last one in the series because it's here and I can. The other thing to note about this series is that while the characters continue throughout the books are not one character throughout. So the first book was about one character and her story. This one is about Roa, a different character and her story. And the last one is about a different character and her story. So they're all in the same world and they all know each other. All the characters or stories are related, but you're just getting one story at a time, which is kind of interesting in itself. That's it for my borrow it books. It's a short reading month this month, so let's get on to my 2 skip it books that I do not think are worth your time. And both of these books were really hyped, so I don't know what to tell you. The first and least villainous of these 2 books is The Whisper Man by Alex North. I cannot tell you how excited I was for this book. The book trailer was amazing. It sold me immediately. It's supposed to be like a sort of mystery thriller where a kid goes missing and it's related to a crime that happened in the past. It's supposed to have a spooky edge. People everywhere kept saying, don't read it alone or don't read it at night. So I went into this with the hyped expectations of what it would be, and I was really disappointed. And I realized that the hype was making it like not as fun for me, so I tried to acknowledge that, and then I tried to judge it just as I would if I had just picked it up randomly, and I still wasn't very impressed. Lots of people are, and I guess I can understand the writing style is simple and like enjoyable to read, and if you're not super into the mystery, thriller, horror, like the darker genres, I can see how it would be appealing to you, but I guess when you read so many of that genre, your preferences or like your standards for what's acceptable to you like really change. So I think it's probably fun if you're entry level, but if you're like a pro, it's, you know, I don't want to say pro, but if you just read a lot of that one, then it might not be so appealing to you. It was fine. I was really bored a lot of the time, and it was really on the edge of being a skip it or a borrow it book. So I just feel like there are better mystery thrillers to recommend. I have videos on that. So yeah, just not worth the time really, in my opinion, when there's so many great other stories out there. The last book on my wrap-up and for my skip it list is The Deep. It is a fantasy by Rivers Solomon. This is a young adult book. It hit the Goodreads Choice Awards, which honestly, I don't understand how it hit that when there were so many amazing YA fantasies this year. I don't know. I truly don't get it. This book is really highly talked about, probably because people like weirdly got political about it. I don't even know. I'm not getting into it. But regardless, people talked about it. And the premise sounds freaking cool, okay? It's supposed to be about mermaids and how these mermaids of this particular like fantasy world were created or started existing from the slave women who were tossed overboard, like pregnant slave women. And so somehow that happening to them made those children into mermaids, and then they started their own culture that's, you know, in their own species. And it's pretty cool idea. I really like the idea a lot. Like, what a fun, fantastical moment in someone's head that must have been when the idea came up. And when I heard that, I was like, for sure, sign me up. People compared it to Lois Lowry, okay? I was 100% on board. But now I just think that that comparison is frankly ridiculous and kind of an insult to Lois. Just saying. It is clearly an experimental novel, and it truly did not work for me. There are different timelines going on, but nothing really makes any sense. Nothing is really set up. I just don't understand. I don't understand why it is so popular. It feels like amateurs wrote it, and I just can't get behind it. I can't get behind this one, you guys. So if you did like it, I mean, you know, I'm glad you did, and I wish I had, but I really didn't, and I just don't understand why it's getting the praise that it's getting. So it's a hyped book that I think you have to look out for, and that happens with hyped books. Some books get more press because they can be like more easily talked about by the media. What are you gonna do? And I feel like this is one of those. It's just really talked about, but probably, in my opinion, not worth all the attention it's been getting. All you really need to know is that when I finished reading it, all I could think was, what the heck was that? So yeah, that's it. And that is it for this reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a quicker one this month. Only 6 books, less than 1,700 pages. Not my best, but I'm really not worried about it. And I hope I will see you on my next video. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me. Let me know what books you loved or hated last month. I'd love to talk to you about it. And if you're new here and you haven't pressed that subscribe button, but you like all things bookish, then I'm your girl. So go ahead, push that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.